Everyone, it's Bonsai Brad, back for my second video. This is going to be my fall update. Hopefully the wind isn't too bad. It's a beautiful fall day here in Michigan, but we did have our first frost last night. So needless to say, I've been doing a lot of fall prep, both for my bonsai species that can survive indoors over the winter and for those that need to be put inside. So I'll give you a look at what we've got going on here. Again, beautiful day. Got the pups. Hey, what are you guys doing? So first off, I think the last video I did, I shared that I had 4 young Dawn Redwood seedlings, maybe 2 years old or so. Debated whether or not we would keep them in their pots and just plant the pots in the ground or fully put them into the ground, right? We've got several years of growth before those trunks are going to be solid enough that we can even think about harvesting them. So that's what we did, put them in the ground. So we got one guy here that'll grow for a couple of years, staked, mulched, all good things. And then we've got the other 3 over here, number 1, number 2, which is really a weak looking guy, really struggling in that small pot, but again, they're gonna get freed up and hopefully they've got enough root system to survive the winter. This one's a little bit more healthy looking, as you can see. As you'll also notice, I got rid of my greenhouse, so I have some cleanup to do. I had a couple come and just pick it up and take it, and hopefully they'll use it for their kids, they said. It was a nice 6x8 greenhouse, but just didn't use it enough, and frankly peppers and tomatoes got overcooked in the summer. So anyway, I also made a recent purchase of a couple of young larch trees. I'd estimate them at 4 to 6 years old. One of them is right here, actually getting highlighted nicely by the sun right now. Beautiful larch tree, also known as a tamarack. So I planted this one on an angle. You can see it's kind of on a hill here, and the reason for that is because of the trunk direction. If you can see in here, that trunk has got a lot of potential. Comes out to your right of the screen and then heads right up. So it's a little bit of a loop like this, and we think that this is really gonna thicken up nicely over maybe 2 to 3 years, and then we'll go ahead and harvest it. Again, a lot of potential with this particular larch tree. You can see the trunk a little bit better down here, the way that it comes up and then up the tree. So the larches are interesting, the tamaracks, because they're one of the only conifers that lose their leaves during the winter. They get a beautiful fall color as the needles are dying. They're easy to work with, good for beginner bonsai, which I still consider myself to be. So we've got one more of those in the front yard. Also wanted to share what I did for all of my pine seedlings, as well as my oak, northern pin oak, and red maple. All those species should be outside for the winter, but they're young, so I do worry about insulation. Keeping them in those small pots that I had them in, frankly, would have put them at risk, especially not being in the ground at all. So I kept them in their pots, but planted the pots in the ground for the winter. And then to avoid digging by squirrels, I actually made a little bit of a sort of a cold frame of sorts. If you take a look here, just built a frame with some latches on the sides. And I used the metal here from the dog kennel for my young puppy that you saw over there, and just basically tied it to the frame. You can see it's separate here. I've got just a couple of pieces of lumber and then more narrow frame around the edge. So basically we mulched this up, put soil in, and you can see that all of these little seedlings are still in there, in their pots. But they'll be nice and insulated for the winter now. So we've got the oak there. You can obviously see the red maple. And we've got our bristlecone pine down here. Bristlecone pine 1, 2, and 3. And then we've got some Norway spruce that are coming up. And then the blue spruce there in the middle. So all these seedlings should be protected for the winter. And looking forward to see how that works and whether they survive. Got a lot of sweet potatoes to harvest yet and some pepper plants I need to get rid of. So come on, pups. We'll run into the front yard for one more look at that other larch that I mentioned, and then we'll take a look inside at what I'm working on. Got my beautiful October Glory maple showing some lovely colors. And there's my other larch. So we'll see if we use this one for bonsai. We may just keep this one in place. It's got a little bit more of a traditional, straightforward, upright trunk structure. Beautiful tree, but got a long way to grow. We planted it next to that maple thinking that we'd have enough space. So the last tree I've got out for the winter, at least until it drops below 20 degrees, is my juniper, which is doing well. we still want it to grow for a couple more years. I may repot it in the spring. I do love this tree, but again, that trunk is pretty small. I'd like to expand it a little bit. This one I bought this year, and it's doing well. So we'll pop inside and see what we got going on in there. Okay guys, so as I mentioned, we had a coastal redwood that has been growing. I think showed it on a previous video, and the coastal redwood was only about 7-8 inches when we got it this summer, beginning of June. So in just a couple of months it's gone nuts. I initially had, like a rookie, potted it into a bonsai pot with a seedling and said, ha, boom, poof, bonsai. Well, as we know, that's not how it works. We got to let this baby grow, and since it does not have a native range here in Michigan, it can handle a little bit of frost based on my research, but it does need to be insulated in the winter. The dawn redwoods, which I was just showing you, are deciduous and can handle the hard freezes. The coastal redwood can handle some frost, but we want to keep it indoors for the winter if it has any chance of long-term survival. So this is a little bit of a leap of faith. I know that it may die, it may not survive, but frankly I just can't keep it out in the winter because I know it will die for sure. So I'm hoping to get this to, 4 or 5 years old and then make some trunk chops. So if it can survive 4 or 5 winters and then we can get it into bonsai form, we can continue to care for it in this way. I just love these trees. I went on a pilgrimage out to California at the end of May and June and went into the coastal redwood forests up in Humboldt County in Northern California, and it was pretty unbelievable. So anyway, let's take a look here. I've got it inside. As you see, I've got a little bit of a setup rigged. This is a low energy and low heat LED that is meant for plant growth. Again, we'll see. I haven't done too much research into what light spectrum this redwood needs. This is primarily for growing indoor vegetables to start them out for the season. It's worked well for that. So I'm hoping that the light spectrum works okay for this. But at any rate, we've got that hung up there. Hopefully you can see that just positioned there. Obviously we'll have to take this out, which is no problem, but this is a perfect little closet. I actually have a Christmas tree box that I had custom made that I'm picking up tomorrow, and I'm going to set this in there instead of on these 2 slabs. We know that we'll need to be doing misting to this tree. It likes the humidity, and naturally indoors during the winter with the heater going, with the furnace going, it's going to be very dry in here. So again, this is an experiment. We may lose it. I don't know. We'll have it set up with a timer here in a little bit. I literally just set this up, but right now we're going to do a little bit of pruning. The reason for that, heading into winter, this doesn't have a dormant phase as a tree from what I've read. But ultimately what happened is this baby just grew too fast. So you see all of this growth, and it's gotten really leggy because I've just got it in a 3-gallon pot. Obviously next spring we're going to be up potting it into a very large pot. I've got I think a 10-gallon. So we're going to go a lot bigger, a lot wider, so that this tree can expand its root base, because right now it's just growing a lot of vegetation up here up top, a lot of growth, and it doesn't have the root systems to support these long limbs. So when I was out in Humboldt County, I saw a lot of these that just take off. But ultimately we need to restrict it just a little bit, so we're going to take some of this growth back so that it can manage itself a little bit better, at least to get through the winter, and then once we pot it up, obviously it'll have more of an opportunity to grow out if it needs to. So we're just going to do a little bit of pruning here. I am nervous. This is the first time I've pruned this tree. I think we're just going to start here by cutting on a little bit of these down low. Let's see here. I don't really know exactly where to cut. You can see there's some new buds spreading out here, but again, it just can't support it right now, so we're going to try and trim these up a little bit. I think we'll go in on this, and we'll just put that over there. Let's go short on here. Still like that growth. Alright. Plan for a little bit of dieback based on what I've read, so we'll go like an inch out of each piece of growth here. And again, you see already it starts to be able to hold that up a little bit. Oh, and I just love the smell when you cut it. It's just a beautiful tree. Okay, so we'll go back to this one. And down here, let's go to here. Again, I'm a rookie, so those of you that have comments on how unprofessional my cuts are can feel free to weigh in. first timer. Again, we're just trimming that up and making so it doesn't droop so much. I mean, look at this, is almost all the way down if you're looking here. We want this to be able to hold out a little bit. So let's go out to this one. The other thing this is going to do is allow for a little bit of spacing and hopefully some back buds eventually, and then we'll continue to get this low growth because we do like that long term for the trunk. Right now it's just a matter of trying to manage this for the tree. This branch we may wire out this way just to get that going. Could create something interesting long term. I think we probably will have to take a little bit of growth off there, as well chop that. I'll leave that on for now. This looks fine. Alright, this guy. How about we go right here? Okay. Another one that's drooping way down. You see that extended out and then it caught some extra growth. I think we just go right to here. So again, we're trying to clear this out a little bit so that the tree can breathe and manage its growth a little bit better. I'm trying to even these out. I think we'll go a little shorter on that. Okay. Alright, and we got some big ones back here if you can't tell. Let's go to right here on this. I don't want to go too leggy up top. I still think that's a safe spot. Let's go back to here. So again, you see this already starts to perk up a little bit. I don't want to mess too much with that top growth. Right now this is all pretty fresh. You can see this is almost just a week or so old, and that crown is still looking absolutely great. Splitting into two. When you see, obviously it's more leggy when it's got further gaps here. So from here to here, and then you see the distance decreasing, means it's getting better sun. It was in various spots. So anyway, I won't show you too much more of this. I think we don't need to cover all of the pruning of this tree for right now. I'll finish this up and then I'll show you the other couple of trees that I've got, but should be an interesting project for sure. One final update here, we have trimmed up the tree. You can see that these leaves just look a little bit more upright. We didn't touch anything above this level, but these we did cut back just a little bit here and here and here. It looks just a little bit more balanced, a little bit more manageable as far as growth goes. You see that we don't have those drooping down to the bottom here, which is a good thing. And I think this is ready for winter, so we're going to see how this responds to being indoors. I'm hopeful that we can keep it alive, but we will see. Final setup is my ficus nerophilia, which is this tree. It's a ficus. I will have some leaf drop with it coming in for the winter. This guy's got a lot of potential. We've got a nasty wound there. This is supposed to be the front of the tree. I do like the potential of these low limbs to expand the trunk, and I think we may repot it. It's doing quite well. The Nimbari is great up front here, as you can see, but that wound is going to have to heal up long term. At any rate, it's had a really good growing season, and we just hope that it survives the winter here. Obviously, it likes a lot of sun, so we're going to keep that turned around and make sure that the front is facing the window. This is a south-facing window, so this is the best light we're going to get. Obviously, it's going to be a less a few less hours per day. And this is a black poi, Jacaranda mimosifolia. This is part of that bonsai kit that I had received, also growing well. Not quite as fast as the flame tree. You see we do have some new growth here popping up. So this guy might need a repot in the spring. For now, again, we're just trying to keep it healthy over the winter. And then finally, I have some ficus cuttings that I took from some trimming I recently did. And this is actually alive. This is a ficus nerophilia cutting from this tree that I took early in the year, and it actually took root in some decent soil. It looks like it's going to be okay. These are all brand new, so we'll see if those actually take off. Finally, we have the original ficus. So this is one that my parents got for me at Costco. It's actually my first bonsai, but I had no idea how to manage this thing. I think I talked in my last video about the fact that I had it just with limited drainage and it rotted out part of the actual base. Fortunately, that's not the front of our tree. You see, I've done some extreme pruning here recently and cutting back. I took limbs off that was a part of a bigger bushy look to the tree and started to try and train it. I did do my first wiring here. I bent this branch to look down, looking at the front of the tree. We've got some nice nibari with the root system here, some potential and even better below this soil. But we're just trying to keep it healthy over the winter right now. I do like the way that we've styled this. This was pointing up. We had more growth up here. I took this and pointed it down. I think that will provide for some unique movement long term in the tree. This one's doing a lot better now that we've got it planted in the right soil and with good drainage. So we'll see how this develops over the winter. I'm thinking I'll take this over here and put it up and to the right, and then lead this apex up, get a little bit more growth, potentially put it into a bigger pot so that it can really take off. But a couple years out, but this one's getting a little bit closer than the other ones that I have. So at any rate, I think that's it for updates for me for the fall. I don't know that I'll have another update or if I'll ever do another video, but I appreciate anybody who's watching. It's a learning process. I have so much to learn, but it's sure a lot of fun. All right, bye-bye.